The Democrats are left scrambling. This is from USA Today today. It said, actually yesterday, USA Today today. Today, Mike. USA Today, Democrats left scrambling on a $15 minimum wage now that it appears left out of the COVID stimulus bill. I am shocked. I am chagrin. You are kidding me. Man.
There's a first time for everything.
Oh. Maybe they'll finally get the $15 through when it's only worth about $6.
Now that's strategy. That's the strategy.
That's strategy, Ron. Okay, here we go. Because here's how they did it. They decided to say that the parliamentarian makes the rules and has more power than the people who are elected. That's what they're trying to do. So they say the parliamentarian, Elizabeth McDonough, she ruled last week that a provision setting the federal minimum wage at $15 an hour would not be eligible under the special budget rules Democrats are using to avoid a filibuster while passing their coronavirus. So, this happened to the Republicans once. The parliamentarian said, oh, you can't put that in a bill that's not. And they said, oh, guess what? You're fired. And they fired the parliamentarian, hired another one, and turned out the new one was okay with what they wanted to do. Because that's how power works. So what this tells you, what this tells, first of all, that's good that an unelected person who doesn't need to be listened to has this much power. It's almost, Ron, I don't know. It's almost like the Democrats are using this as an excuse.
Yeah, almost like it. Like, it's almost like they were running through the halls like, what can we, there's got to be something, right? Do we have, what about have we talked to the parliamentarian? We could probably sell that. It's not, it goes against the rules somehow. Okay, we're gonna ride with that. We got that. Parliamentarian.
So
that's what we're rolling
so
with.
The Democrats are not even going to give you a hike in the minimum wage. Not only are they not giving you actual relief from COVID, they're not talking about a $2,000 monthly check. They're talking about a one-time $1,400 check. The rest of the world is getting monthly checks. The rest of the world. This is the only country doing this like this. They are crushing the workers. So what they are doing is, again, this is an assault on the working class. That's what this is. This is a full-out, flat-out assault by the oligarchs in the financial system on the working class. That's what's happening. And for them to be dicking around like this, acting like this is what is happening. There's a massive upward transfer of wealth. And so I kept asking Dylan Radigan, who we're going to get back on the show soon to talk about this, why won't they give people COVID relief when the rest of the world is? And no one has an answer to that. Well, I have a theory. My theory is like what everybody's been talking about. They gave all the money, the $5 trillion, to the richest oligarchs. They have the money, and who gets the money first is important. And so now they want to buy shit at fire sales. There's every billionaire in this country's got his eye on something they want to buy. Meaning like, oh, wait till all the restaurants fail and I'll book and I'll get them. So that's what they're doing. They don't give a fuck that workers are being crushed. They want them not to be able to pay their rent, so their landlords go bankrupt, and then guess who gets that property? The creditors. So when you have an act of God like this, a pandemic that makes you shut down, your economy gets wiped out, you're supposed to relieve people's debts. You're supposed to have debt forgiveness. They're not doing that, and they're not giving people relief. So they're not only screwing the workers and the rent and mortgage payers, but the mortgage holders and for the creditors. And who is the creditors? Fucking the financial system. Just like they did to people when Wall Street went belly up during the mortgage crisis. They took people's houses away and gave them to the banks. They're going to do it again. So there's an assault happening right now on the working class. An all-out assault is happening. No one's calling it that. No one's talking about it like that. That's what's happening. So we're going to get Dylan Radigan on. We're getting Max Kaiser on, I think, pretty soon, too, to see what he says about this. And Max and I, of course, haven't seen eye to eye on a lot of things, but I like Max. I think he's got a lot to say about what's happening. So, but that's my assessment, and we'll see. We'll see if I mean, I think it's obvious, right, Ron? Would you disagree that there's an all-out assault on the working class right now?
No, I don't disagree with that assessment. And bringing it back to the $15 an hour, I saw this tweeted out by the Gravel Institute. What are you saying to people where you're telling them that they are essential workers, which they are, and you're saying they don't deserve a wage to live on? What kind of society is that?
Well, that's called a failed society. We are a failed state. I know I've been saying that for a while. Other people are starting to say it. But well, let's get through our sketch. So,
back to the sketch.
Roots Action tweeted out, the parliamentarian has no official power. It's the vice president, meaning Kamala Harris. As president of the Senate, she decides whether to overrule the parliamentarian. This is entirely on Kamala Harris. She can override the parliamentarian. There would not be 60 votes to overrule. So, White House will not overrule the $15 minimum wage decision despite progressives' pleas. We'd rather listen to an unelected person with no actual power than to the poors. So does everyone see everyone sees what's going on? Vote for me, the checks will go out. Vote for me, we're going to get you that $15. I mean, they ran on this $15 minimum wage, and now they're sticking it. And who's the liar? But Trump is still the biggest liar in the world. He's still the most corrupt. So now the norms are back, Ron. Now this is the norms. You lie to people during the campaign, and then you totally do the opposite when you get elected. That's the norms. Remember, they say Trump was breaking all the norms. Well, now we got a guy who normie, and this is the norm. Get ready for the norms.
And how about, so an unelected person whose job it is to interpret the rules, they decided, this goes against the rules, so that's why we're not getting a wage increase the bulk majority of Americans want. And who can do something about it? Well, the vice president, who, by the way, was also so grossly unpopular, she could barely get any leverage even in her own state, who now has this position of power. So, holy shit, talk about democracy.
This is that tweet you were talking about from the Gravel Institute. By giving up on the $15 an hour minimum wage, Joe Biden is saying that there are workers who are essential, yet they don't deserve a living wage. That is exactly right. Sanders vows to force a vote on the $15 minimum wage. Huh? How's he going to force that vote? Well, here's what I said. First of all, this is violence, Bernie. This is violence. Why is Bernie pushing a popular policy when the party leadership are squashing it? That's just divisive, Bernie. Did he reach out to approved grassroots organizers and start a committee? So, of course, no, he didn't do any of those things. And I would like to know, what is the leverage he's going to use to force this vote? He could put a hold on the coronavirus relief. Is he going to do that? What is going to be his leverage, you think? Well, let's look at this at the sketch. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders said he will force a vote on an amendment raising the federal minimum wage this week. To the best of my knowledge, there will be a vote on the minimum wage, and we'll see what happens, he said. I intend to offer the bill that will raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and we'll see how the vote goes. If we fail in this legislation, I will be back. We are going to keep going. I was told that trying to force a vote on something is bad strategy before, but he's not. What is he, Ron? What is the leverage he's using to force a vote? We should have got a parliamentarian on, someone who knows this thing, but it doesn't seem like Bernie's actually using any leverage to force a vote here. And by the way, if they take that vote on the $15 minimum wage and extract it from the COVID relief bill, that's a pointless vote. Here's what David Sirota says. The $15 minimum wage must be in the reconciliation bill, meaning the coronavirus budget thing that's supposed to give relief. Or it almost certainly is not going to happen. The Biden White House knows this and is still somehow bullshitting everyone by pretending it may happen at some future undefined time. It has to happen now, not later, now. Okay. And here we go back to force the vote. Here's your leverage. This is exactly what, if 6 House Democrats commit to not voting for the COVID relief bill, unless it has a minimum wage increase in it, Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer would have to add the minimum wage into the bill to pass it. Or they would have to find GOP votes to pass it, which doesn't seem to be there. So here they have another chance to do this. They're not going to do it. Isn't that funny, Ron, that they won't do that? Well, here's one more. He says, if all 50 in the Senate Democratic caucus voted to nuke the filibuster and pass the House bill, it would be on Biden's desk. But some of them don't want to do that. So, again, this is all about the Democrats, the people you elected, the progressives having power to flex, and they won't do it. If just 6 House Democrats commit to not vote, this is the same thing we just went through. And now people don't want to say force the vote. They're saying put it on the floor or whatever. It's almost like Democrats don't want to get that $15 minimum wage, Ron. It's almost like that. So get this. Even in a divided America, America agrees on raising the minimum wage. By how? By how much? Well, 83% of Americans say this minimum wage of $7.25 is not enough.
What do the other 17% say?
The other 17% haven't had to worry about money since the 70s, Ron.
Okay. All right.
2/3 of Americans favor raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. That's from the Pew Research Center. Those things are very, very popular across the country in Republicans and Democratic districts, said Pramila Jayapal, referring to the $15 minimum wage and campaign finance reforms, among other progressive priorities. And nobody is going to be interested in procedural reasons why we can't deliver. And she's right, Ron? Are progressive frustrations enough to sink the larger relief package, Biden's top legislative priority, without the wage boost? Ready? Here we go. So this is the question. Are the Democrats going to do what David Sirota is saying? Are they going to force them to put this shit in the bill or withhold their vote? Are they going to do it? That's the question. Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Jayapal sounds like she wants to do it. Are they going to do it? Well, Ro Khanna says, nope, we're not going to do it. He said I'd have to vote for it. Because in good conscience, I can't deny people unemployment. So it's the same thing they did with that first COVID relief, the CARES Act. They're giving you crumbs. And so people who don't want to, Ro Khanna actually doesn't want to challenge the establishment right now. He didn't do it on force to vote. He's not forcing a vote on minimum wage. He didn't force a vote on Medicare for all. He's finding a reason not to do it. And the reason is that bullshit reason they gave in CARES Act was, we need the unemployment money. Well, why can't you get fucking both? All you have to do is withhold your vote and you get it. Again, thank you for making me look like a fucking genius. They can't help themselves. They can't help them. I have to go along with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the establishment. That's what Ro Khanna is saying. I have to keep doing it. I did it in the CARES Act. I'm doing it now. I did it with forced to vote when I voted for Nancy Pelosi. I'm doing it again. I'm never, ever actually going to fucking do anything. That's what Ro Khanna is saying. Now, if Ro Khanna disagrees with me, he's welcome to come back on that show and try to defend this bullshit again like he did last time. The exact thing he did exactly what they're doing is they're hiding behind bullshit. And that's what Ro Khanna's doing. That's what they're all doing. They're all doing it. I'm not making this up. They're doing it right in plain fucking sight. Asked whether she'd make the minimum wage an ultimatum for her final support, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal was careful to say her vote would be based on the bill as a whole, not just that one.
Like it's a tiny thing. Just that tiny thing of getting our minimum wage caught up to present day, which by the way, it should be $24 an hour, not 15.
So what are you going to hold your vote for? What are you going to do that for? Representative Jayapal and Ro Khanna, what are you going to? Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing, Ron. They're going to withhold their vote for nothing. They're going to use their leverage zero. They're never, ever, ever going to flex their leverage and get you anything. That's what they're saying. Thank you for making me look like a genius. And for continuing to make your defenders look like chumps. The Justice Democrats' defenders look like such fucking idiots. And I don't have to do anything. I just have to sit here and laugh. Chumps. Every last fucking one of them. Chumps. Like most other progressives, Jayapal is stressing the fact that she still sees the Biden White House as a good faith ally. And here comes friend of the show, David Sirota, to explain to everybody, and especially Representative Jayapal and Ro Khanna, that the reason Joe Biden is only negotiating with Joe Manchin to make the stimulus bill worse is because there are not 6 House Democrats willing to do what Joe Manchin is doing and effectively promise to vote down the bill if their demands are not met. If 6 House Dems pledged to vote against any COVID relief bill that didn't include a minimum wage, the entire dynamic would change. The entire city of Washington, D.C. would freak out, and the entire White House would have to use all its power to add a minimum wage into the bill. Why is he being so divisive, Ron? Why? That is violence. Why is he? Does he have a problem with women of color? Does David Sirota have a problem with women and women of color? Because that's what it sounds like.
Well, I've gotten to the point where I try to correct myself whenever I say things, and I've said this in the past. I think we all have, where I say things like, "Oh, the Democratic Party is so incompetent. The Democratic Party is so incompetent."
No, they're competent.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they are. I mean, I think it's time that people really stop sugarcoating the fact that they are actually a right-wing party. They are a genuine right-wing party. And yeah, the majority of the establishment would rather not have living wages, which by the way, the fight for 15 is basically symbolic at this point, because when they started, $15 an hour was a living wage. It's not a living wage anymore. So even just getting there is largely symbolic at this point, and we can't even get there, which is absolutely remarkable in so many ways. So I don't call them incompetent anymore. I'm like, no, they're a right-wing party. In any other similar industrialized country, they would be the furthest right option you got. So, if there's some individuals there that are for living wages, that's great. But if all you're going to do is tweet nice, nothing's changing.
They're to the right of the most right-wing governments in Europe. I mean, Joe Biden and the Democrats, and they're to the right of them. There's no other right-wing government that is not giving their people COVID relief if they shut their business down. No other government, no right-wing government, and no other right-wing government is denying people health care. They give them all Medicare. They give them all fucking relief when they hold their business. We're not doing that in the United States. Democrats won't even give them a $15 minimum wage. They won't do anything.
I was having a conversation earlier today with someone from the UK, and he was saying, look, the Tories had to do things they'd rather not do. They're really off. And I'm like, look, I don't disagree that the Tories are awful, and I get that they're doing things they'd rather not do. But here's the thing. Here in the United States, our Republicans and Democrats didn't even do that much. They didn't even do the things they'd rather not do.
Right.
They didn't even go that far.
Well, here's what Glenn Greenwald said. He says, Joe Manchin knows how to use his leverage and power and is comfortable doing so. The Justice Democrats know how to use their leverage and power, too. Ro Khanna knows how to use his leverage and power, too. They just don't have the backbone to do it. They don't. They're all talk. And again, if I'm wrong about this, Ro Khanna, you're welcome to come out and challenge the veracity of this statement that everyone sees to be transparently true. Again, I don't know how long you guys think you're going to keep bullshitting. You bullshitted people about the unemployment for the CARES Act. You bullshitted people about forced to vote. And now you're still fucking nonstop, top of your lungs bullshitting. And I see through it. Rod sees through it. Every fucking buddy with who's conscious sees through it. David Sirota sees through it. I'm pretty sure Cenk Uygur even sees through it, even though he's pretending not to. But Glenn Greenwald gets it right. Manchin knows how to use his leverage and power and is comfortable doing so. That's not true of many people in Congress who wield similar leverage as he does. It takes courage to walk away if you don't get what you want, and people know if you have it or not, which determines power. And everyone knows that the Justice Democrats aren't going to, they have got their nutless wonders. If you're in Congress and constantly make demands and never have them fulfilled, but just march in line like good soldiers anyway, why would anyone rational ever take you seriously? Those who never show they're willing to use their leverage will be ignored for good reason. Nancy Pelosi said when asked about the progressives in the Congress, the squad, she said, oh, that's just like a handful of people, 4 or 5 people. Well, that's all it takes, 6 people to derail any legislation right now, and they won't do it. The dynamic above applies equally to activists and voters. People who are always too scared to walk away from a negotiation are people who never get anything. That's why I say if you're not like, I agree with Lawrence O'Donnell of all people who said if you aren't willing to withhold your vote for the Democratic Party, they'll just ignore you. So I'm withholding my vote from the Democratic Party. I'm doing what Lawrence O'Donnell said is the only way you can influence them, and that's what Glenn is telling us too. If you're a voter or an activist and you're not willing to walk away from the Democratic Party, then you have no power, and that's why the left has no power in the United States. Zero. Nothing. And when someone like me does try to stand up and get us to use our power, they all attack the fucking messenger. Because we're a bunch of adult children of alcoholics in the United States. But a lot of people saw through that. And those people who defended the squad and defended inaction, like the Young Turks, are taking a fucking hit for it. Thank God. Thank God. So he says the dynamic of people who are always too scared to walk away from negotiation are people who never get anything. If you're going to be a good compliant party soldier, even when you're ignored, then you'll be ignored. It's universal. That's exactly correct. If you can't pass a policy that has 67% support when you have full control of Congress, what the hell is the point of electing you? The answer is there is no point. And that's what I've been telling people. What is the point of voting for people who don't take corporate money if they just do the bidding of the people who do? The answer is there isn't one. When Norman Solomon said, what's the point of electing the progressives to Congress if they're going to vote with the surveillance state anyway? There isn't a point. I don't know how long it's going to take for my Hillary voting friends to realize this, but nothing is going to change. Nothing. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.